Help me figure this out. What would you prefer after high school, getting a job or going to varsity? What do I mean by that? I'm sure you might have a friend, or you might be someone that, after your matric, or some of you are still going to go on that journey anyway. After your matric, you just went straight to work, and you probably have some of the things that you wanted to have, or able to pursue whatever you want to pursue. However, some of you after matric went to varsity, and you're probably sitting at home, or you're probably looking for a job. Some of you maybe might have found a job immediately after varsity, you know. But how have things looked like? If you were given now a new opportunity to restart things, what could be your best approach? Start at work, study later, or go to study, get the best job, probably end up unemployed, or whatever the case may be. Help me figure this out. Maybe I might find a new topic for the next episode. Anyways, today I wanted to talk about building industries. It's one of those probably controversial topics. I don't know, could be. But through my experience in business, there's certain things that I've observed, there's certain things that I've learned, and today I think it's high time we talk about them. I need to share my experiences in those things. Maybe they can help the next person. So, this other time we attended this meeting with some of the organizations that I can mention, but one of the things that they spoke about was, how they could change or implement some of the insights that we were to give them to change the industry. Because the creative space, to a certain extent, it looks like it's underrepresented. There's not too many voices, representing the industry. And that is basically supported by the fact that a lot of you come from universities. They still find themselves unemployed, or you find yourselves unemployed. A lot of you, go to prestigious institutions. You pay a lot of money. You come back, you look for a job, and you end up finding a job with us. The small businesses, and as a result, you find yourself having to learn a new way of doing the reality of doing things, in this current condition, in this context, because we are in South Africa, and that was somehow, I think, one of the things that informed them that the industry, or the sector is really underrepresented, because there are no people who really inform the decisions that have been taken in the higher, places and boardrooms, and also the fact that a lot of things are not changing. It means that there's not too many bodies that speak for the creatives in the creative spaces. I think also we need to find a way of defining the concept of creative, because being creative can exist in any way. Being creative can exist anywhere. You can be creative in the science space, engineering space, wherever. But in this context, I'm talking about art spaces, rather. Like fashion, fine art, visual art, and so forth. Now, one of the things that, to circle back to what I've started with, what we spoke about, the organization, I think one of the things that I responded with was, I think before we go far, we need to start considering industries. We need to build industries, because there's no way that you think you can change the old way, the problems that we have, the problems that people are facing, without considering the fact that we do not have enough industries. Um, Oftentimes you'd hear the government saying that there's billions of money that's redirected to, new economies or to businesses or emerging businesses that are coming with new ideas, da 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 da. But when you really think about it, if you are in the entrepreneurship space, you start understanding that it will still be a problem if the industries are not well structured. It will still be a problem if we do not have experts, to run the managerial space. It will still now require, you know, other people from outside the country to come basically and hold the management positions. Why? Because these positions will be deemed as scarce positions. That means that no South African can fill in those positions. However, if you start building industries, it means that you can focus on empowering the spaces that I think are already overtaken by some of the entrepreneurs that have like experiences, Because another thing, the system has built, the processes to be sort of gatekeeping. They are outdated from what I've observed, and as a result, they become like gatekeeping processes, which I feel if they were to update that, and empower cluster development, for instance, there are places where there's like cluster development, you'd find a lot of entrepreneurship in one spaces like creative hubs, and then they're probably in similar industries. If you go in those spaces and you group them together, they can actually form what could look like, a bigger company. It means that if they were to, get like procurements, if they also the government can open up a lot of activations, to go to these spaces and update all of these entrepreneurs in new ways, not in these old ways that are boring, that can be inclusive, that can allow most entrepreneurs to understand the procurement process and also make it easier for them to start accessing these opportunities. But now there are certain groups like in cluster development, as I've mentioned before, where they are easily accessible by some organizations. I know that because when they look for information, they know where to find these, groups, these entrepreneurs. But when it comes to empowering them, all of a sudden, they do not know where to find them. They do not know, or it's a thing of these people are not applying. But you know where to find them. If you really are intentional about empowering them, then maybe we can start with first step. How do we get them compliant? How do we get them understand the procurement process? And then the second thing is not to try and have like a one size fit all blanket of accessing these funds, that are with these funding agencies or with these government agencies, to be exact. Have like multiple ways of deploying these funds. Like for instance, instead of saying, oh, you need to apply, you are not compliant enough, you do not tick the boxes, you can't access the funds, let's look into other ways. Can we go there? Because when we look for information, we know where to find them. Can we go there? Just like when we look for information, let's understand how far are they. Let's now help them get into, preparing their companies to be ready to, comply so that they can get the procurement processes. For a fact that there's a next coming event or whatever that you're about to do. You're gonna need t-shirts, for instance, 1,000 t-shirts, or even more. Now, you prepare these guys in a cluster development. It means with their resources combined, they can actually handle big orders. That will act like some sort of a co-op. If they have to open a co-op, then prepare them to do that. Unlike to keep on saying, this is what's supposed to be done keeps on coming from people who are less informed about the industries and how things are happening, they're not updated about everything else. And some of these concepts, they barely know them, and when they talk you can tell that they're probably talking about something that they are less clued about. But now, if we were intentional about building industries, there are so many entrepreneurs that are at home, in the township, in the rural areas, that could access some of the abandoned buildings, some of the buildings that were hijacked, some of the buildings that, or some of the industries that were closed down, that, some of them, they've been broken down, the equipment have been taken, you know, there's so many things that are happening that people are not even aware of. There are factories that have been closed down for years now. Can we revive those? Can you get these guys, group them together? Even if they do not have to really practice, because some of us in the entrepreneurship space are really ready for any opportunity. Some of them, they got there because of forced entrepreneurship. But now imagine if you were to start these industries, or open up these factories, and you take some of these guys with experience, they start running the managerial positions, because they've worked in spaces where they had to manage groups. Yes, maybe they might have not managed like bigger employees, but something that they can look up to, or something that they can learn to do. But at least they've got the foundation, because I know every manager didn't just start and, manage a big group. They had to start somewhere anyway, same as these entrepreneurs. At some point, they had to lead bigger projects, complex projects than, any other project that you can think of. And these experience can never be transferred. You never feel them unless you're in the same space. But now grouping these guys together, it means you can have the hierarchy you need. You can have the structure and the processes that you think can help get this industry running, and then from there you can do exchange programs. These guys can go to places like China that have, advanced processes, systems, in terms of building industries, alleviating poverty, manufacturing, And then these guys were to spend like a couple of months, instead of closing these information, allow it to be accessible, especially in the right spaces, where you are intentional about, oh, these guys are doing this thing. I've seen them because they are organized. They are in spaces where they are recognized, These spaces like cluster development, they are actually proper spaces to start with. And then you take these guys, put them in this allow them to learn with intention of, you need to come back in the next 6 months, in the next year with something, right? They come back, they start now, transferring the information. You can also get some of these guys that have left the country, they are working somewhere outside there, they are acquiring advanced maybe information that we cannot access in South Africa. Let them come back, let them hold managerial positions. We start building these industries, without having to be long. Maybe I might be, mumbling, talking, because there's so many things in my head. Unfortunately, I can't put them down because this thing is not scripted. This thing, like this couch in the middle thing, just comes, and then I just think I have to record. Everything is just here, so I just record. But I'm just all over because this thing is in my head. I think about it. If maybe I've scripted it down, maybe it could have sounded better. But the idea is, it's important to get these industries ready, because it means once the government puts out the funds out there, it's no longer a thing of the information is really difficult to access, because a lot of guys, when you speak to them, they think that the government doesn't help, you can't access these funds. And we always say, no, you can. It's just that their systems are really, really outdated, but you can. Hence, you need to apply. Go for grants, go for these accelerator programs. They help. It's better than nothing anyway. But I don't think it's enough, to build the economy of South Africa. If you are not intentional about the change you ought for, then I think it slows down the process. These guys are gifted. I've seen them. I might not sound eloquent like some of these guys out there, but I know what I'm talking about. I've seen these guys. I know what they're capable of. I've seen their craft. I've seen the projects that they've run. I've got a huge database of entrepreneurs. I've worked with them for more than 9 years now. I think I've got like more than 10 years in business. So I understand that, there's so many of these guys that can do amazing things. Maybe they do not have enough muscle to execute bigger projects. But now, I don't think there's one business that started, and maybe there is, but I've never seen a business that started there and then they did everything efficient and everything was just smooth and flawless. No. Everything is flawed. And it's unfortunate that some of these businesses, that are there, that are being trusted, they actually did whatever they did with someone else's money. I don't know why is it a big deal for us to say we need the government to assist us to get this thing going. Yes, we need the assistant. We need the assistant from funders. We are not saying we need giveaways or we are a charity case. No, it's one of the things that I said to this organization when they're doing this. We need business, recognize us as businesses, then you give us the business that we need. Like, for instance, a government the same departments that will come and look for information, the same departments that say, yo, but you guys are doing this. These are departments that have a lot of employees that wear uniforms and stuff, that do corporate giftings, that do a lot. There's so many things that they do. If for once they could just come and say, guys, it's no longer about grants, or we just want to give you business. Can you create uniforms for us? Can you create corporate gift for us? Can you, there's so many things that we could do for them, but that now speaks to business. That speaks to us, having contract with them. Because if they really believe in us and say, let us give you business, instead of saying we're gonna keep on give you this 40,000, 50,000 grants, let us now start with something real. We give you money, you give us something in return, something that we need. We need uniforms. Yes, we might make mistakes along the way because everyone needs to learn along the way. That's a fact, We need to. You cannot expect someone who've never run a project of 100,000 for the first time they do that project efficient. It can't. Along the way, they're going to make mistakes because they still need to understand what it takes for them to make a project that is worth 100,000. Same when they reach 1 million, they're still going to do the same mistakes. But if they can never access that million, they will never learn how to manage that million. I think that's how we can build industries. We need to entrust these businesses, big or small, medium. We need to trust them all that they can make change in this country. If we do not trust them, then deploy people that can help manage them. Don't just put in money. There's so many people that have experience in the government, in corporate spaces. Some of them are retrenched. Some of them, they've got qualifications, their opportunity to learn. Deploy them while you disperse the money. Deploy these guys so that they could be foremen, they could guard the funds. They could help build managerial processes in these businesses. They could help build financial processes for these businesses. Then it means that you are intentional about what you're doing. If the first year of this business that you're working with is to set up the compliance, it means that bring enough resources for them to find themselves in the spaces where they are able now to say, look, I'm compliant enough. For instance, the first year, you take some of this retrenched accountant or whatever, could be students, or but just bring them. While you give the funds, for a fact these guys maybe the funds doesn't even come from the same funds that we are using for the business, for the operational costs. Maybe you are covering the salaries for the same guys, the accountants that you have deployed to become part of the company. They become, yes, our employees. In turn, whatever you call them, they are contracted. It's fine. You cover that for a year, right? They build these processes, they build the systems, they handle everything while we are learning. So, which means now the learning process becomes practical. We don't have to sit in class and say, okay, I'm just waiting to access this a bit of cash, and then for this thing to work, and other things wait while I'm learning. No, we learn as we go. They build the systems, I learn the systems, we apply. There's money that we are using to make this thing practical, which means we are both now winning. The guy who's unemployed is employed and is they learning in a real-time space, in a practical context. Same as the entrepreneur, they get to learn these systems that we are forced to learn, because we can't really afford to pay these guys. But now when we are learning them, we are not learning them in the space of comfort where it seems too complex because it sounds theoretical. But now we are learning in the place where it allows us to engage with it's like driving. The more you drive, you become better. The more we do this thing, it becomes a norm, becomes a way of life. But now imagine after a year we were able to get all of these things done. We have filed our annual returns, we have done our financial statements. If we need to do projections and all sorts of things, we can also do that. But if we have the records, we can do our financial statement, we consolidate all finances. And now if we have to employ at least 2 to 3 people, we have that. All of the compliance, whether with the Department of Labor, with SARS, with CIPC, any other body that you need to affiliate with, Proudly SA, we get all of that done in that first maybe year, at least 60% of it. Now, the following year, now that everything is at least, closer to being like fund ready, or I don't know how to call it, but let's just say you are now funding ready. Yeah. So once you get to that space, it means now the following year, it's the next step. Let us now start getting you into this financial funding agencies. Remember, you are intentional. You are assisting these businesses, right? By being intentional in that second year, it means now we can start. The same guys that you have deployed year 2, they are still acquiring the experience, but now you can put in all of these businesses that are under your database that you are helping, not because you need to tick the boxes, because you are intentional about building the economy of this country. And then they start and this thing, honestly, it doesn't mean that we are getting things in a silver platter. No. And it doesn't have to be black or white or Indian. It should be on all citizens that are really intentional about building the economy of this country and see us better. Now, once we get that assistance, it means that we can start now, putting all application. We learn now how to apply. We learn how to answer these questions. We learn how to file on all sorts of things to update our company. Now, once we start accessing funds, or we start getting companies that can give us contracts, letters of intent, it means now we are running business. Imagine you have big organization associated with you, you've got a contract with them for like 3 years, and they get like big orders to create uniforms for them, or to produce for them, to whatever service that you need to offer or product, but you are able to do that for 3 years with a reliable company. It could be a government department, it doesn't matter. But what's important is you are learning business in real time. You learn how to serve a client, a bigger client for that matter. You learn how to manage big budget with a team that is experienced, educated. You are intentional about what you are doing. The same guys that you are helping in the same space, now on their 3rd year, they are able now to say, look, I'm I'm ready now to scale. I'm ready now to hire X amount of people. I'm ready now to produce in this much volumes. I'm ready now to export. I'm ready now to all of the things that are intentional. But it seems as if we are not yet ready to build these industries. We need to build these industries for us to be able to play in fair grounds and fair planes, to build this country. I mean, this country is most of the, I don't know how to put it, but small businesses, they build the economy of this country. They are the backbone of this country's economy. They offer so much to be undermined as businesses, and to be gate kept from accessing opportunities that really they need to access. And I think maybe they're not intentional, because sometimes when you engage with some guys that are working in this department, I don't know if it's through luck or what, but most of them, they're just clueless. Some of them don't even understand the stages of business. I once went to some department, they didn't understand the term prototype. They thought the products that we are making is a prototype. Imagine. And to us, we were like puzzled that this person doesn't even know the stages of business. A prototype is something that you should be advising some people who come and inquire about how to access the support from the department. And strange enough, the same guys that are supposed to assist, they don't even know the stages of business. They don't even know what prototype means. Really, guys, we really need to be involved. I think also we need to be involved in decision making. When they plan, they need to plan with us, allow us to be part of the journey, engage us in the process, the same way they did when this BE thing started. Some guys really say that they were picked up from and given opportunities because they had a bit of experience, and that's how they become multi-millionaires. Now, if you are intentional about what you are doing, there will be direction. Otherwise, I was way too long about this. I think I became too emotional because I'm running out of words, but this thing is right here in my mind and I want to take it out. Shout out. Peace.